Hey, welcome to Next Level Method Podcast. I'm Richard Ryerson.
And I'm Matt Lilly.
And we're here to help you take your life to the next level. Let's get started. Well, Matt, we had Peggy Ward on the show today. Mm-hmm. She's a CPA by trade, former professor, accounting professor at Wichita State. Used to be. She doesn't do that now, does she?
No, I don't think she does.
We brought her on the show. You mentioned her, and I texted you this weekend. I was like, well, what are we going to talk to her about? And you said, well, she ran the Badwater 135. I didn't know what the Badwater stuff. So it's amazing. Just so people know, the Badwater is a series of runs that, I mean, they're in austere places, like start at the bottom of Death Valley, then finish on the top of Mount Whitney, Salton Sea, some other places on beach. Just crazy. But 135 miles and 80, I mean, anyway, the woman is phenomenal.
Yes. So, and that's why I really wanted to have her on the show. She's local to where you and I live in Wichita, and she's not most of our guests have books or speakers, right?
They're kind of gurus of some, professional gurus of some sort.
Right, and with Peggy, she's just very down-to-earth, very straightforward, soft-spoken, I would even say. But, man, the depth of the conversation we got into, the ability to train your mind, train your body to run 135 miles, and not even just run the 135 miles. As listeners will hear in the thing, it's 116 degrees. Like during the race at night, I think I heard it was like over 100 during at night, right? Through these elevations and up and down. And so it wasn't, you and I like to get into kind of the psychology behind it. And I think we did during that show, but it's just phenomenal. Yeah,
a couple takeaways for me. Obviously you get past the kind of just, I didn't know, number one, that races like this even existed.
Right.
Number two, that why would you even want to do this? I'm impressed that you would want to. I can see why you want to do it. I wish I could do it.
Right. That driver,
But I think it's important to point out is that she did this in the mid part of her life.
In her 40s.
Right.
Before she really started, I think before she ran her first kind of ultra race. Right. A 50 mile, I think is what she said.
So that was a takeaway for me. But the big one was the community piece. Yeah. She said that early on. We can't do this alone, right? I mean, and all this on this journey that we're trying to take ourselves to the next level, we can't do this by ourselves.
No.
We got to surround ourselves with a community. We got to surround ourselves with people who can push us out of our comfort zone into the growth zone. The accountability piece is huge. And I know this is a huge part of Next Level Method.
Sure, of course.
This is why we do it, why we want to have a community, so we can hold ourselves accountable.
Exactly.
I'm better when I surround myself with people like you and other people in the community. Because I'm like, I don't want to disappoint you as part of it. But we encourage each other, right?
Exactly.
And she talked about how important coaching and mentoring was, right? And that's a huge part of her purpose. So
I thought it was a great interview, and like I said, I laughed harder than I've laughed in a long time during the interview, just at the sheer ability to do some of the stuff that she's done, and cried during the interview. It was a good time.
Amazing. Yeah. Well, this is why I love doing this podcast, and you never know what you're going to get. Because I'm like, I don't have a lot of information on her, which is sometimes some of the best conversations because you just another human being that's just no different than you or I,
right?
And she's done some amazing stuff all internally with her own mind, her own body, her own self-discipline, and she gives back to the world.
That's the beautiful part.
She makes the place better than she found it, and that's what I love about her in this conversation. Guys, check out nextlevelmethod.com to learn more. We got a whole bunch of exciting things coming up, some live events. We're looking for coaches ourselves. Again, you can find all this information and all the links at nextlevelmethod.com on our YouTube channel, and also subscribe, rate, and review to our podcast on Next Level Method on your favorite podcast application. Anything else to add, Matt, before we send people on that way?
Nope, that's great.
All right, guys, get ready for this great conversation with Peggy Ward here on Next Level Method. Well, Peggy, so nice of you to come on the show. Welcome.
Well, thank you for having me.
Well, my curiosity's piqued. I didn't know much about you until this weekend. I studied, and then I was asked. I sent a text last night to Matt. I said, "Okay, so what are we going to be talking about?" And he said that the Badwater 135. Right. Yeah. Then I realized there's a whole series of Badwater races. There's not just one.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I didn't either. And I was looking at this. There's like a Badwater Salton Sea. I used to live in Southern California, so I was familiar with the Salton Sea, but all these austere places. But anyway, we were kind of joking in the pre-recording that we might want to check her sanity level for some runs for fun, 267 miles or thereabouts, and
Mm-hmm.
a 40, did you say 40-hour period?
135 miles.
Okay.
Oh, 135 miles.
Yeah.
So all 3 races put together will be 267 miles.
That's where
Got
the
it.
267
Okay.
comes from.
Right.
But they make you-
Badwater 135 is 135 miles.
So they make you do half of it up front. So there's 3 races and you have to do half of it. Like, is that just to weed out everybody else, or?
Well, normally without COVID, you do Cape Fear first, the 51. Then you do Salton Sea second, the 81. And actually you do the 135 last.
Wow.
Oh, so you did it
Interesting.
Wow, we're
Right.
jumping ahead. Let's talk,
Okay,
before we get to the race.
Yeah.
There's so much stuff. So by trade, what do? You're a CPA. You're a numbers person. You've been in finance. You've been a teacher. Bring me up to
I'm a
speed.
CPA.
Yeah, you're a CPA. So bring me up to speed. How you got to what do you do here in Wichita?
Well, I'm in Wichita mostly because I graduated from WSU
Right.
with a accounting degree, and then I got my MBA and I started working here. So I've been in public accounting. I've been with Fortune 500 companies. I've been locally owned companies. Most people know me from my 20 plus years of teaching at WSU in finance and accounting. And I recently switched with that. And so now I work for a family and do consulting and still do about 50 tax returns.
Okay. And so how did we get involved in running? So you've been a runner your whole life?
Well, I have. I think I was about 14 years old when I felt like our volleyball coach wasn't running us enough for basketball. So I started just kind of on my own running. And that's kind of what started it.
Wow. A student athlete saying, "Coach, you're not running us enough. More laps, please."
You hear that a lot.
I'm telling
You hear that a
this-
lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, we got to do this mental assessment here.
I know. I was thinking back to my own experience. I was like, that wasn't my experience.
Yeah, I didn't
It was
ask
more
for
like,
more laps.
no more line drills. No more line drills.
Very interesting. Yeah, it's funny. I used to run quite a bit too, and we were talking earlier in
Yeah.
the pre-recording, and it's one of those things where if you get, to me, it was like 6 weeks. If you get past the 6 week,
right.
running really
Yep.
sucks. It really hurts. But if you get past that 6 week mark, it becomes almost addicting. It does become addicting.
Right.
It's almost like you feel worse if you don't run, right? You have that. Do you agree with that? I see
Oh,
you're-
100%. And I think one of the reasons most people don't like it is because they try to go out and run as fast
Yeah.
as they can.
Oh.
Yeah.
And then as far as they can. And that really isn't the way to start. It's better to start with a run walk
Yep.
and get started that way.
It's I think particularly when I was really into it, you get into these moments where you just get lost in it almost. I don't know if it's the dopamine that's kicking in or what happens,
right.
but you really get, and for me anyway, it's almost like this
Right.
self-aware moment that's just, it's hard to describe. I don't know. I'm speaking to another runner, but do you agree with that? Do you get that same sense when you run?
I agree 100%. In fact, I don't take my phone with me just so that I can have those moments. It's my me time. I can de-stress. I think I use that instead of meditation. It's just a way to kind of clear your mind.
Yeah. I'm jealous. I wish I didn't have these disc problems because I really do enjoy it if you can get to that moment. So so you turned into running as a kid. More laps, please. Yes, ma'am. May have another. Just the punishment. But obviously, running's been important to you. So have you always been kind of someone who's been passionate about self-awareness, self-help, improving yourself, trying to improve? What triggers that? What drives you?
I'm not really sure what specifically drives me. I think it's just a quest to always be better and to be the best person that I can be. I was a first generation college student, and I actually didn't get to go to college until 2 years after I graduated from high school. And I think that kind of lit an internal fire in me that I might not have had otherwise, to always strive, no matter how hard it is, to do better and be better. I
like that internal fire. So it's kind of like you saw your friends and your peers. You didn't get to participate in that, but maybe that. Okay, now you got your chance 2 years later. That started that drive, and it's probably been with you ever since.
It has.
Yeah. Well, go ahead.
Well, and I was just curious back as it evolved on the running side. So you were a student athlete, but then did it just evolve into I want to see how far I can take this, or what? How did it go? Because I do want to get into both things. I want to get into what actually, because I'm just like enamored by the whole, how the hell does that even work? And then the other side is definitely the psychology of how you do it, right? So, but from a technical side, did you just one day say, hey, I'm going to run a marathon, or what? I mean, what happened?
Well, the funny thing is you called me a student athlete, but really I was more of a student. So I was my class valedictorian. So if you went back and asked people in high school who was going to be, an athlete, even at this age, none of them probably would have picked me.
Okay.
Because I was mediocre at best at everything that I tried when it came to sports, because I'm not that coordinated. But what happened with me was I kept running. It was a way to stay in shape. It was, like I said, it was just my me time. It was my meditation time. It was what I liked to do. It kept me mentally and physically healthy. Then I did a 5K, and I didn't really enjoy it as much as I thought I would. It was pretty crowded and, a lot of people around, and I really was more of a distance runner. And so I just trained, and I did a half marathon and then back-to-back marathon within a month of each other. So in my first marathon, I got second in my age group. So I thought, okay, I know how to do this.
Oh, wow.
So then I did another marathon, and I felt like, this is the same dream. This is the same goal. There has to be more. So I started looking around, and this was in 2005, and I found that there was a 50-miler just right up the road from us, and it started in Cassidy, Kansas. So I started training for that. And I was trying to find resources to train. And so it kind of goes back to what we said kind of pre-show. You have to be as individually prepared for life as you can be, but you surround yourself with people who can help you. And at that time, I didn't know anyone doing ultras. So I looked on the internet and I found this training plan, and little did I know it was a training plan for a 100-miler, not a 50-miler. So I did that. And when I ran the 50-miler, I actually set a course record for women that day because I had way overtrained. And so then I got this feeling that I knew how to do this.
I love how life works. I just love how life works, right? It was like, so you were training to run twice as far, so you were twice as prepared. So you were now, and I want to be for everybody listening. I want to, I think I know about how old you are. I think I've known you just a little while, but so when you're talking about starting to think about running these ultra marathon, you're talking well into your adult life. This wasn't something you did at 22 or 23, right? This was
I was 42 when I ran my first 50 miler.
Well, I was going to ask that because when you were
amazing.
telling this story, I was in my mind, I had this linear progression of student asking for more laps.
Right.
I was thinking like you were in your 20s, but no, this is like a midlife thing where you said, you know what, I'm going to start doing these crazy distances. That's amazing.
Yeah. So, and that's what I wanted to get across is this wasn't something, that you was just like you said, was like A, B, C, D, E. I mean, it was basically kind of this progression over the span of your life, not just a boom, you're running, you're having success, and let's just do more. It was literally something of, hey, what else could I be doing?
I'm curious, was there a gnawing there? So was it like something was missing? Was there a gnawing? When I find myself doing something where I push myself into this kind of uncomfortable zone or this growth zone, I feel that there's a gnawing there, and sometimes I can't even define it. Would that describe you?
Like, was something going on with Peggy's life that maybe pushed you to go to kind of see what you could do in that physically, I guess?
Well, I really think what was happening was a lot of my life was stressful mentally. And so it was a way to get rid of some of that stress physically. And so the distance happened more around my daughter being old enough to be able to be home by herself for an hour while I got a workout in, kind of a thing. Or I actually in 2005 bought a treadmill and put it in my basement to get ready for that 2006 race so that I could go get on the treadmill after she went to bed. So that's how I ended up training for that, with the 1 hour that I knew she could be home alone and or down in the basement when she was in bed after we got her down for the evening. So I don't know if I really felt a gnawing to do that. I think I just was at a point where, like I said, I did the marathon, and I had a lot of friends who kept saying, do a marathon while you can, because I want to do one, but now my back hurts or my knee hurts or I can't do one, or whatever the answer was. So I thought, okay, I'll do one while I'm healthy and I can get it done. And like I said, then I got second place in my age group, and I thought, well, I know how to do this, so let's see what else is out there. So, and there's a little thing that I posted the other day on social media that only those who are willing to push themselves too far will ever know how far they can go. I think that is kind of something inside me, wondering what else do I have mentally? What else do I have physically? What can I really do in life?
Yeah, I think that I can definitely relate to that. However, sometimes I find myself either procrastinating or talking myself off of that ledge. Like I'm really curious about what makes you take that, what makes someone take that leap? Does
that next step?
That next step.
Well, I think, okay, so once I got into ultramarathoning, then it just became this circle of friendship, like a family of people coaching each other. We call each other enablers. Because we enable each other to make these decisions and then help each other through it. And so I had a lot of people surround me to help me get the 100-miler in, because that's a whole nother level. I mean, a 50-miler you do in a day, right? And then you have a normal night, and a 100-miler, that's a 24-hour commitment kind of a thing, at least at my pace. And so there's a lot more that goes into training for that, and not being injured while you're training for that. So that was my problem. I kept getting injured. And so then once I started doing 100-milers, I saw these more elite runners doing this Badwater 135, and I actually applied to get in. So in 2015, I did 4 100s and a 40, and the 4 100s was called the Kansas Grand Slam. And the year before they had it, and 2 men did it. And I thought, you know what, we need a woman in there, right? We need to show that women can do this too. So I think about 8 people were going for that in 2015, and only 3 of us made it. So a guy that had done it in 2014, another woman, and I. So it was the first year that women had accomplished that. And I'm probably the oldest person who accomplished it. Like I was the oldest when I accomplished it, kind of a thing. So.
And that was, what did you say that was, 4 100s?
In 2015. So it was 4 100s within 8 months.
Within 8 months. So every other month you're running 100 miles.
Well, it was actually 1 in March, 1 in July, which was pretty hot.
Right.
And then September, which got pretty warm, and then 1 at the end of October.
Wow. Okay.
That's amazing.
Sorry, I'm just like thinking about that whole thing, and I'm like, it seems overwhelming to me. Yeah, right. I'm just like,
as I was happy,
holy cow!
As I walked 2 miles yesterday.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. As I got winded. We were on vacation in Colorado this last week, and I got winded on a bike riding for 2 miles. I was like, I had to stop and push it up a hill. So I'm like, when you're saying 4 100-mile races in 8 months, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's a commitment. But it's also interesting that you said that you were injured. You still ran the 4. I'm assuming you were injured at some point between those races or during those races or something?
I wasn't injured during those. I was injured trying to get to my first 100. So my first 100, I didn't get completed until 2012. So I just kept getting injured, and I was actually in a 100 one time. And when I first started doing hundreds, I was doing them to win. So during a 100, about mile 28, I made a huge mistake. I ran through some rocks I shouldn't have and stress fractured a foot. So then by the time I got to about mile 42, I just couldn't take the pain anymore, because we were crossing cattle guards. You know what those are? And every time I would step on one of those, the pain was just excruciating. So I had to get out of that race. And that's the only, we call them a DNF, did not finish. That's the only DNF I have.
And it seems like that's a big deal. I mean, the way you said it was kind of like she still carries a little bit of that. And like, but I'm sure though that, like you said, that mentally changed the way you looked at the race, right?
And then because then I went to Georgia to try to get a race in, and to try to finish the 100, and I was actually in first place clear up to the 100K mark. And they were offering me to have a pacer so that I could win the race. And I told them, I don't want that. I backed it off and got second place just to get the finish. Because I knew that I could, in a dark forest, I knew I could make a big mistake and not have a finish. So I think after that point, I started to go to finish instead of win. And it just made a complete difference. So when I did the Grand Slam, I was just doing it to finish each race.
Right.
During one of them, I did injure my back. It was a trail race, and I fell down 3 times, and because I'm not a good trail runner. And one of them, I actually did a flip and landed on my back. It really hurt my back. So the last 25 miles, I couldn't even stand up straight.
What's going on here?
Wait. Yeah.
I'm just feeling like a slug.
And this is you flipped. You fell down 3 times. One of the times you flipped during the 100-mile race. So it was like almost like an obstacle course. It was like,
it is.
Hey,
Some
you
of
run
them
100
are.
miles. And we're going to throw in some extra special stuff for you, right?
Well, and that's the thing. A lot of these races, it isn't about the mileage. It's about the terrain or the heat. Or there's always another element that comes into play. It isn't just the mileage.
Oh my God.
I love that. It isn't just about the 100 miles. It's about the terrain.
Yeah.
It's like I'm going to have to. I'm sorry. That's a true endurance athlete right there.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
It's not about the mileage. It's 100 miles you can do. It's the other stuff they put in the way that's the challenge.
Yeah,
is that what you're basically saying?
She's on a whole nother level here. I don't even know if we're worthy talking to her anymore.
Exactly. Yeah. As soon as I knew she was going to run this race, as soon as she finished, I reached out to her and said, "Hey, can you be on the show?" Because I'm just like, one, who does that, right?
Yeah.
But two, I had no idea the other stuff. Wow.
Well, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, I was gonna.
So go ahead.
Well, I just want to reemphasize the point that something you brought up. I don't want it to get lost. That why you're doing this, the sense of community, which I think is very important.
Right.
So huge, right? Not doing it alone and finding somebody else. I can see. I think back to those times where I've done things that I never thought I could do. It's because I was surrounded by other people who pushed me. Right.
Exactly.
So anyway, I didn't want to lose that point. Anyway, sorry. What were you going to say, Peggy?
Well, so it was during that time that I was doing those 4 100s and that 40 that I started to meet people who had done the Badwater 135. And these people were way better runners than me. But I went ahead and applied that year to run it in 2016, and I didn't get in. And I was kind of crushed, actually, because I thought, hey, I did these 4 100s and a 40. What more does it take? And so I kind of just went into mentoring other people in ultramarathoning. And so I paced people, I crewed people. So crewing means that you're going to help them, meet them at different places and help them get the nourishment or clothes or whatever they need. Pacing means you're going to run with them. So I would usually join people at mile 40 to 60, somewhere in there, depending on where the race would let other people join you, and I would pace them to the end. And I kind of prided myself in that because there were 3 people that I helped get PRs, a personal record, and a 100. So I figured, hey, I'm good at running and I'm good at being bossy, I guess, because I'm helping people, better themselves even during a race. And I was enjoying that. And then one of my friends had done the Badwater Salton Sea, and I thought, you know what, I could at least go do that and get the experience of something similar to the Badwater 135, because I had watched a documentary and I just kept feeling, that was when I did kind of feel an inner urge that could be my race. I really could do that because they started highlighting people that were just normal people like me. They weren't the faster runners of the 100 milers. They were just people who were, had jobs and were, kind of just going through life and got into the race. So I went and did the Salton Sea, that's the 81 miler. And then I decided that I would go ahead and apply again for the Badwater 135. But this time I decided I would do the Ultra Cup, which is Badwater Cape Fear, Salton Sea, and the Badwater 135. And then I also decided that I wanted to raise money for the Challenged Athlete Foundation. I've got people in my family that are struggling for different reasons, car wrecks, cancer, to even learn to walk again. And so I just decided I wanted to make a difference in lives for those people that can't run, that then through another foundation that helps people be able to be active and mobile again, to get what they need to do that. So I just decided that would be the purpose of me doing this. So with that, I got into the Badwater 135 and I started training like I've never trained before.
Well, let's educate about Badwater. Like, so when did they come about? What was their purpose? When did they start doing this? Educate me on the history of Badwater.
So one time a guy decided he would go to the Badwater Basin, which is in Death Valley, and it's 282 feet below sea level. And he decided he would go there and run the 135 miles up to the portal of Mount Whitney. And everybody thought he was crazy, right? So he did it. And then in 1987, I believe, is when the Badwater race was born, where then they started encouraging people to come and try to do what he did. So the first Kansas man to do that was Eric Steele, and he did that in 2000. And then the other guy that I know who did it quite a bit was Tony Clark. So he did it in 2011, 2012, and 2015. So he was the guy that I chose to be my crew chief, because I thought if anybody can get me through it and be one of the people that I need there to help the crew help me, it would be him. Plus, he knew what it was like to start at night. So they actually start the race at night. So my flight started Monday night at 9:30 p.m. So it was 100 degrees when it started. And it was really hard because I woke up at 6:30 on Monday, and you're not going to sleep. I mean, you're nervous, things are going on. So, he kind of just told me, you need to be on the bed and you need to be resting. And they would leave me alone every once in a while so I could at least shut my eyes and shut the drapes and things like that and rest. So that was the best thing that I could do at that point. But so when the race started, we're at Badwater Basin, 282 feet below sea level. We got blessed with 40-mile-an-hour winds, which I'm like, hey, I'm from Kansas, so luckily I know how to deal with this. So then to kind of explain the race, you end up going over 2 mountain ranges. The first one has grades of 5 and 9% when you're going down. And I don't know what they are going up because they never put signs up for that. The second one usually takes people 6 to 8 hours just to go up, and it took me 6 hours and 44 minutes. And all this time, remember, you're in heat. We were in at least 116-degree heat. One crew told us 124, but I don't know where they got that information. And then to top it all off, then at mile 122 is when you start your climb up Mount Whitney. So the last basically half marathon is straight up.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
So 2 nights of no sleep.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm wondering about, as going through this mentally, is there like kind of like it probably accelerates like a dark night of the soul type of event for somebody like does that happen like where you're halfway through and it's like there's got to be this like gut check moment or this dark night of the soul moment, right? Is that a fair way to describe it?
Is there at any point you just think you're going to stop, or is that just not an option?
My crew knew that the word quit was never going to happen.
Right.
They knew the words figure it out was what we were doing. Whatever happened, we were going to figure it out. Mm-hmm. And so I guess I just felt so blessed to be there, and I wanted to be there so bad that I never really had one of those moments. In fact, I had taken the ability to listen to music at first, but with the wind being 40 miles an hour, I knew I wouldn't be able to hear it anyway. So I just gave it to my crew after about 2 miles. I knew I wasn't going to use it. Mm-hmm. So I didn't use any music or anything. And there was 2 sections. So after 40 miles, I can have pacers out with me. Mm-hmm. But at this race, a pacer has to be behind you or beside you. So they can't be,
running in front.
Right. Because they can't be breaking the wind for you or whatever. But
gotcha.
Anyway. So there was a couple of times when I told my pacers that I really didn't want to talk, but I think that was more because, it was just hot and we were going up the mountain pass, and I just didn't want to use any extra energy doing anything but getting myself up that pass.
Are you saying things to yourself as you're in, like, that's what I'm trying to get at it, or are you just kind of lost in the moment? Yeah. I'm like, are you talking to yourself? It's like, you can do this, or are you like, what are you thinking about?
This sounds so weird, but the scenery was so beautiful that I'll be honest, at the first hitting that wind, and it was gently rolling, so I couldn't really see people in front of me or behind me. And there was one point where I thought that I was last, and I even asked my crew, what is going on? Like, where is everybody? Am I so bad at this? And I was putting in probably 10 and 11 minute miles then. So for an ultra runner, that's really good. So I wasn't doing bad, but I just felt like I was doing bad. So Tony did have to have a little talk with me the second time I stopped in. Is like, everything's fine. You're doing fine. You just can't see people. You're right here with everybody. So once we got past the 17-mile mark where I could see that other runners were ahead and behind me, I felt better. But after that, the sun was coming up, and once I could see the scenery, it was just so beautiful. I didn't have any problems thinking, and it's kind of weird where I guess my head would play songs, since I didn't get to have songs, like music would be in my head, or there would be times that I would be talking to my crew and my pacers. But, I think I just felt so blessed to be there. And, I prayed for people that I knew couldn't be there for physical reasons and wouldn't be able to be there. So I think I just tried to be outside of myself and enjoy the moment more than anything.
Yeah, it's like kind of gets to the meditation, the self-awareness piece. Like once you just you're there, you're totally present in the moment. That's what I'm hearing you say. That's pretty powerful, to be present in the moment and not really even thinking about. That's my challenge. If I start thinking about the finish line or how far I got to go, it's just weird how, I don't know if when I do a lot of running and I see, I got this far to go, then your body starts, but when I'm totally lost in it, it feels like I can go forever, if that makes sense.
Well, and I only thought to the next time I would see my crew. So I'm not standing at mile 0 thinking of mile 135.
Sure.
I'm thinking, what do I need the next time I see them? Do I need fuel? Do I need hydration? Do I need cooled off? So I was only thinking about the miles I was in at the time and what I needed the next time I saw them, so that we wouldn't have the wheels come off the bus, kind of a thing.
And so when you say that, how often are you seeing your crew?
Well, the way I planned it in my mind, I would see them every 2 miles. As hot as it was, I asked them after every mile and a half if they would start looking for a place to park, because there always isn't a place to park. And I know there was one section that we went through that we probably went, 3 or 4 miles without seeing them, because up the mountain pass, there was nowhere for them to park. So we knew that was coming up, and we just packed extra food. And I made sure that I had, 2 things of water with me and things like that, just so that we wouldn't run out of what we needed before we would see them again. Sometimes, if you run out of something, again, here we are with that community spirit. If you're out of something and another crew has it, they're happy to give it to you. So if like one time we needed something and I didn't know where my crew was, and so we waved at another crew and they helped us. Oh, wow. So it's just a community like that. I will admit, though, the second night from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m., we were up in the portion where the mountains were, and the moon was really nice, and it was out until about 2 a.m., and then it went behind the mountains, and it got pitch dark. And that was a struggle. My body was never tired, but my brain was tired. And I remember, we started pushing caffeine. We were doing everything we could to keep me awake. And there was another runner around us where they had to actually kind of hold on to him because he was weaving on the road so bad. It was just a really, really dark time. So you could only see what your headlamp was showing you. And that was kind of hard to get through. You had to make sure that you didn't start hallucinating and things like that. So, we just had to strategically place everyone so that wouldn't start happening.
What this reminds me of, you're talking about, talking about life and how this kind of mirrors life, kind of talking about David Emerald's taking baby steps, right? Having an outcome-based mindset. But again, not thinking about the last mile, but just like thinking like, well, I'm just going to take this next step until, right? And then eventually you get a breakthrough. I know, I was thinking about that when chunking it down, chunking it together.
A large goal into smaller goals so that you can accomplish, mentally, so that you're not focused on something that may or may not be a reality, right? You're just doing what's next, not what's.
Because when you're here and it seems so insurmountable. Right. But there's that mindset of like, I don't know how I'm going to get there. I just know I'm going to get there. There's always a confidence that you're going to get there. You don't necessarily know how. I don't know. Does that resonate with you?
You trained for the how. You trained for the how, and you've read about the course. And we had cutoffs too, like mile 50 and a half is a cutoff. And that's where a lot of people got pulled. So I was kind of thinking to the next cutoff, and I was in my head calculating, am I making up time or am I using up time for the cutoffs? Because there were 3 really tough ones, and that was about mile 50, about mile 70, and 90. And after that, the cutoffs become a lot more generous. So you're kind of chasing cutoffs the first 90 miles of the race. And then by like the mile 122 cutoff is more generous. And then of course the final cutoff is 48 hours. So
Cutoff. So not only are you running, but now they're telling you if you don't make it to that marker, they're going to not let you, well, you could probably continue running, but you're not qualified any longer in the Badwater 135, right?
And they really don't want you to continue running either.
So literally you could miss, I mean, you're at mile 90 and you're just slow that day, you're done.
Well, and most people actually got pulled at mile 50 and a half or whatever that cutoff is, because again, we got hit the first 17 miles with that 40-mile-an-hour wind, and a lot of people didn't train for that or don't have a place to train for that. It's not, they don't train in Kansas, you know?
Right.
So that really ate up a lot of people. And out of they usually let 100 people in, and 84 started and only 65 finished. And if you look at it, a lot of them, didn't make it past mile 50 and a half.
Huh.
Wow, that is
interesting.
One guy I know, he was 5 minutes short.
Oh gosh.
He said one gal was 10 seconds short. So it's kind of funny. And in an ultra marathon where we don't measure things like they do in a track, to miss it by 10 seconds, that would be hard.
That would be horrible. I mean, that would just be one of those I mean, oh my gosh, 10 seconds.
Yeah, you'd be looking back at everything you did and think of all the places you could have saved 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Or 1 second here, 1 second there.
That's crazy.
So how does it change you? So how does this, you've gone through this. How are you different? How is the Peggy different? The Peggy now compared to when Peggy started doing this?
I think I'm the same, but I think it reinforced my sense of community. I've offered 2 other runners that I would help them next year. And if they don't need my help, I offered the race director that I would help him, because I know that it wasn't just me out there. It was the crews, it was the volunteers. It took a lot of people to put that together. So I don't know if it changed me or if it just reinforced who I already was inside and gave me another outlet to feel like I can help people, whether it be with their running or just, again, it's kind of like life, right? I mean, where is somebody? Where do they need to get to next? And what's their final goal? And just listening and talking them through that.
So it reinforced the mentor that's already inside of you. You knew that's kind of who you were, but this just kind of amped it up on steroids almost, right? Like this is who, you're tapped into what you're supposed to be doing. Yeah. That's great.
Phenomenal. Yeah. You're such an inspiration just on many, many levels. It's like, I know Richard and I may be sitting here feeling the same, way. It's like, it's good to have people like you in the world, Peggy, because that inspires people like me to step up a little bit more. Because it's like, and that's exactly why I wanted to have you on the show. It's just like I knew, I got to know you a little bit just from, places we go and people we know. But yeah, it's much deeper than I had hoped for as far as in the conversation. Just I always learn from our guests, but certainly the inspiration today. I'm just like, you got me laughing, you got me crying. You're right now. My heart's kind of like feeling just all kinds of like compassion and all kinds of like, wow, you're just very inspiring.
Yeah, I was thinking, I got winded going from my bedroom to the shower this morning. I gotta just not complain and just continue to. I'm gonna definitely do my walk this afternoon. So,
well, and I think it just shows like that whole community component.
That's the thing I really appreciate.
Once you, I think that, well, I've heard it said that you're the sum of the 5 people that you hang out with the most, right? So if they're, or birds of a feather flock together, right? And so as an individual, no matter what's happening in my life, right, I have the choice to decide who those people are, right? Yeah. I can't choose my relatives. I can't really even choose my neighbors, but I can choose the people that I guess I can choose my neighbors if I move, but really, am I actively, consciously surrounding myself with people that inspire me to be better at whatever it is I choose to be better at, right? It doesn't, I mean, for you, it's running, but I also know I was a distance runner in school and enjoy that off and on throughout my life. So I know that with that, it's not just running, right? There's a spiritual, there's a mindfulness, there's a practice to the running that's why runners do it. It's not just go out and go from one point to another. We have cars, planes, we have much faster modes of transportation, right? So there's almost, to your point, a meditative practice to it. But, am I actively surrounding myself with people that want to go where I want to go? Like you wanted to complete a Badwater 135, so you put Tony Clark in your life, right? Somebody who'd been there, who'd done that, you knew you could learn from. And I think that learner mentality, we talk about a lot on the show, and just in general, that learner mentality. You said, I don't know how to do this. Who does know how to do this? And then you persuaded him, however that worked out. But then obviously he wants to give back too. So there's this whole dynamic happening there that's just really cool, I guess. Yeah,
and what really resonates with me too is that, and I heard you say this early on, is like you want people to understand that, like, look, I'm no different than you, right? I'm right. Somebody that started this, in the second half of my life. This wasn't necessarily a dream, or I wasn't, inclined when I was a kid. People saying you're going to be this. It's something you chose to do,
right?
And you had to overcome those fear and limiting beliefs, which I'm sure you probably had at some point, but something pushed you to continue to go forward, right?
Right, for sure. Well, and somebody once told me, it's okay to have hopes and dreams, but then it's putting a plan in place that makes it be a goal. And then, it's kind of like, I always have a hierarchy of goals in my life, whether it be with a career or whether it be with my running. So my hierarchy of goals with my running is always finish, right? Finish and get the buckle, finish uninjured. That would be the second thing. And then I keep having it be, more and more. So on this one, I had a hierarchy of goals, and, I finished, and I actually hired a running coach that I hadn't ever had before. And I looked for someone that was the most like me that I thought could help me get to the finish line. And she's out of Florida, and she's in her 50s, and she has done what they call the 146 solo. And her and I were supposed to be in the 2020 Badwater 135 in the same starting together. That's how we met, so to speak, on Facebook. So started talking and things like that. So then when they canceled the 2020 year, and I decided I wanted to really mix it up so that I would be ready, that's when I reached out to her and hired her. So I think it kind of just goes to everything in life. You decide what you want to do, and then how well you want to do it, right? And how present you want to be, and how much you want to commit to that. And one of my friends has a running joke with me, and because he sees himself like me, and he'll say, him and his wife will both say, well, anything worth doing is worth overdoing, right? So that's what our kind of joke is. When we make a goal, we don't only want to do it, we want to overdo it. So, we want to think everything through and make sure that we not only hit our goal, but, hit it, and then maybe have some of the other hierarchy of goals come true also. So the fact that, I finished it as strongly as I did was even more to celebrate, because we had 48 hours to finish, and I finished it in 40 and a half, which is really pretty good for a 57-year-old woman to make that kind of time. So my coach was really pleased with the way it went. My crew was really pleased with the way it went, and I was really pleased. In fact, people have asked me, do you want to go do it again? And I say no, because there's not one part of the race that I think I could go back and do better. So I just want to go back and help other people reach their dream.
I love that. Yeah, I love that, how you're so, there's an internal competitiveness. I don't know if competitiveness is the right word, because that sometimes has a negative connotation to it. But
the
drive, I guess, right? The internal drive. If you don't reach those hierarchical goals, or maybe that's why you put them in a hierarchy. If you don't reach it, if you don't finish, what does that do to you internally? How do you handle that?
How do you recover from that?
Yeah, how do you recover from that?
Well, like I said, there was only one that I didn't finish. I had a stress fracture of a foot. So I was determined to make it back the next year. And so that's kind of part of the story. So I was scheduled to be in that same race a year later, but about 3 weeks before the starting line, I was injured, and I knew there was no way I could do it. So that's a October race. Well, by December, I was healed up. So that's why I ended up going to Georgia for my first 100, because I was healed up. So I went out there and I did it all by myself. I was my crew. I was my pace. I was everything. Right.
Oh my gosh. On a 100-mile race?
So, but I rented a Jeep once I got to Georgia, and I parked it strategically so that I could get to gear and everything, because it was a 100-miler where you actually did loops. Okay.
Oh, nice.
So
you'd see the Jeep a few times.
So every 16 miles, I could get stuff out of the Jeep that I needed, basically.
Nice. Huh.
I think it was 16. I don't remember the loops. Anyway, so I was going to be one and done there, right? Placed second. I was happy. Well, then it was actually Tony Clark who was the race director of the race by then. And he said, hey, you paid for the race last year and we carried your entrance forward. Do you want to do this race? And I was like, well, sure, I paid. I'll do another 100. And so I broke 24 hours at that point. And that's another kind of like milestone for a 100-miler, that if you can break the 24-hour mark, they kind of look at it like you know what you're doing. So I guess that's another reason why I got hooked. So I just kind of kept in the loop and stayed with the community, and it's just kind of kept being what I like to do.
And I like even the because I've heard this said as well, and I've had coaches that have coached me off and on throughout my life, but you actually went out and hired a coach out. You have the community which is supporting you, but then you said, I want even more opportunity, I'm assuming, to succeed or to hit my goal, or to, that I want to hit. So I'm going to find somebody that's going to make sure that I do that. And I know, a lot of times, when you're engaging with a coach, they don't even necessarily have had to have done what you want to do. They just help. It's like an accountability partner, but they're, you're paying them to make sure that you have accountability, right? To make sure you show up and you're doing the stuff, and to kind of keep you on pace. So I was like, that's, all professional athletes have coaches. Right. I mean, that's what they do, right? Every professional athlete, anybody you see on TV that's doing anything in the sports, they have a coach, right? And there's a reason for that, because that's and the coach isn't better at basketball. Michael Jordan was much better than Phil Knight. I think it wasn't. Who was the coach?
Well, even Tiger Woods' coach can't play golf better than Tiger Woods.
Right? Exactly. Right. So it's not necessarily about finding somebody who's the best, better than you at something. It's just, are they good? Are they a good mentor? Or are they a good coach? Because I'm sure now that you've done this and you've been a teacher by trade as well, you could probably coach anything on anybody to some degree on anything, because it's the mental. How do you break through hurdles? How do you set goals? How do you accomplish things? That it sounds like that's the strategic part of the whole thing. It's the coaching the mental side of here's what to prepare yourself for, and you even spoke to it. Most people hadn't prepared themselves for the adversity of the wind, right? They probably were, and probably it was, I'm guessing, as much of a mental thing as anything, that, I've never faced this before, so how do I handle this? Versus just figuring it out. Well,
and I think another key element is always seeing where that person is themselves. So sometimes it's easy for us to mentally check ourselves and know where we are and where we need to go. But when you're coaching someone else, you have to listen to where they are.
Yeah, absolutely.
And where they want to go. So, in my mentoring, again, teaching at WSU and then being a manager of a company, I always had to look and find out, where the employer, the student was and where they personally wanted to go, not me.
Right.
Because everybody's different. Everybody's journey is different. So you just have to figure out how to help them on their own journey.
Well, that's kind of the key of coaching, that a lot of times when people get into coaching that they miss, that's my experience. If I'm your coach, my experiences are really irrelevant to yours. And so for me to sit, we have this tendency of wanting to well, let me tell you what I did. Well, this is what I do. And that's really not coaching. That's just kind of telling. And a coach, as you pointed out, sees the other person as this unlimited. They see that you have the tools, everything you need to be what you want to do. It's just the coach's job to help you extract it, help you see it, right? And
and she had me do heart rate training, which I had never done before. And then when we were about 2 months out, I found one of the emails where she had to get a little terse with me because I really wasn't listening to her on what I should have been doing with nutrition at that point, because she was like, you need to train your stomach, because hydration and nutrition are two of the things that take everybody out of this race because it's so hot.
Right.
They get sick and that's what takes them out. So I was a little stubborn there for a little bit, I'll admit. She had to get a little terse a couple of times to remind me that she was the coach.
But eventually you listened, right? That's the key.
I did.
That's the key to success.
Well, as we wrap up here, what's next for you? What can we expect from you next?
So Cape Fear is in October, and then Salton Sea is in November.
October and November. So you're still finishing out this trifecta. You called it something else, but
the Ultra Cup.
The Ultra Cup. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Well, you get the hard one out of the way, though, right?
Right.
So
for sure.
Well,
they're all. You have to respect them all, though. I mean,
right.
They're all different.
It's like an 80-mile race. Isn't like, okay, I can just go do that on a Tuesday.
And it's not just the mileage. Remember, there's
elements.
The terrain. And the 51 miler, it's a lot of it's on a beach, so you're running in the sand. And then the 81 miler, it's a similar terrain, topography, or whatever you'd call it, to the Badwater 135, and you're having to do it with another person. So all the way. Wow.
Well, amazing stuff. Well, I'll definitely follow you on social media, so I'll definitely be tuned in and look forward to the race updates and your crew giving race updates. That was a lot of fun just to see them posting where you're at and what you're up to and the pictures and everything. So very cool.
So how can people connect with you or learn more about what you're doing?
Either through social media. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook, or they could use Peggy at peggywardcpa.com.
Okay.
Zip me an email if you're interested in, hooking, finding some resources in the ultra running community.
Oh, very nice.
Well,
and we'll post all those links.
We'll have links to all this on the show notes.
Exactly.
Is there anything? Did we ask any other questions before we? I'm just very inspired and happy to have Peggy on today and just listen to the story. And again, I think, I want to take you to dinner and just like spend 3 hours to ply you with wine or whatever, just to get you to kind of continue. Because it's just an amazing feat, but it's not just the feat. It's not just the running, right? There's so much more to it. Just your sense of contribution, your sense of wanting to not only coach, but be coached. I mean, it's very inspiring. So
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I agree. I mean, in the message about community, about surrounding yourself, about the self-awareness of the internal drive, all that. There's so many great lessons to be learned there. And you're a bona fide badass. That's all I can say.
Hey, we need to have you back on the show when you write your book.
Yeah.
See, we need to help inspire you. So when you write your book, Peggy the Badwater Badass.
That's right. That's right. Where's the title?
Right. We need to have you back on the show. That would be wonderful.
Okay.
All right, Peggy, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, thanks for tuning in to the Next Level Method podcast. If you found some value in this, tell somebody about the show. Tell your friends, tell your spouse, tell your kids, let them know all about Next Level Method. And go to nextlevelmethod.com to learn more and join our community. Thanks for tuning in.